differently abled, differently.
Welcome back, and you are watching Abled Differently. The United States International University played host during the book launch of Disability and Social Justice in Kenya. Take a look.
The book launch of Disability and Social Justice in Kenya brought together scholars, policymakers, and activists to discuss the history and current state of disability rights. The event took place at the United States International University, USIU.
This book launch, I remember us during the symposium in 2017 at the Methodist Guest House. That's where we were, and this conversation was beginning. And my one key point I would want us to always remember when you think about this book and when you think about disability, every other place is one key one that came out so clear for me is conversations.
Professor Kimani Njogu, as one of the conveners of a conference on disability and social justice that enabled the production of the book that was being launched, spoke of the importance of such a publication.
I think it's a very important publication for many reasons. One of the reasons is that it brings together people who work in policy, people who do research, and people who are engaged as activists on issues of disability. Disability rights are human rights. They are critical to any society. And when they are violated, when they are not respected, we all suffer because we are denied the opportunity of a certain section of our society. So today was important in terms of just having that conversation about disability and social justice.
According to Professor Martin Njoroge, who also doubles up as the Dean of Students at the university, the day was successfully executed, beneficial to those in attendance and a step in the right direction for the institution.
And today is a great day. Why am I saying that? Because we were doing two things. One, launching the book on disability and social justice, and which is a collection of articles from scholars and activists, because you realize that disability is not just for people who have disabilities or people with disabilities, it's for all of us. So I think that is one. Then number two, we were also able to let the world know that USIU has taken disability issues very seriously. We have established an office which caters for people with disabilities. Number two, we have very many students now who are with disabilities in our university. And we saw them today, and seeing them participate in today's event was really, really humbling for me as a dean.
Mercy Mogure, who sits at the board of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities, was part of the conversation. According to her, implementation is key for progress and visible change to be seen in order for persons with disability to benefit from what is already legislated.
You know, because unless we have this conversation, unless this article in this book talks to me and I share that knowledge with the next person, then it remains like any other book in another place. But when you go out there, you tell your fellow student that I was in this book launch, it's about social justice, it's about this and this. You are making someone else now to start having this in their mind, in their planning, so that at the end of the day, this is what will bring together the scholars, the policymakers, and the activists.
She called upon stakeholders to keep the conversation going at all levels in collaboration with persons with disabilities for them to enjoy their rights in the long run.
When we are coming up with this beautiful program and this and the other one, we want to help persons with disability, help into quotes. The only thing that will make it practical is trying to understand where are we coming from. What are the issues? And this book, as I'm glad when I went through it, when we're talking about the disability rights, we're talking about human rights, we're talking about the inclusion, the accessibility. The first question that now start is, me and where I work, the people interact with daily, how accessible, when I'm making those decisions, I have to start with what are the conversation, and the conversation is what fits and what do they need, and can I hear from them?
Retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Kenya, Dr. Willy Mutunga, attended the event that saw the launching of the book, Disability and Social Justice in Kenya. Speaking at the event, he termed the reluctance in implementation of the already existing laws as unconstitutional.
We have to breathe life into the Constitution by asking for what the Constitution has given us, because I think it's very, very, very important. When you have a particular right, you fight to get it and you consolidate it, and then you ask for something else. So, but the discussion here was how intellectuals, policymakers and activists can work together and talk about an issue like the issue of disability. And it's a good thing, because you see the intellectuals tend to be distant. They tend to be distant from the activists and from the policymakers. That's why the university has always been called the ivory tower, and it's inaccessible and opaque. So I think that conversations, those conversations are very useful, because if you can get maybe the minister who is in charge of, people with a disability, it's very easy to ask them what happened with the counties. If it's buildings that are inaccessible, okay, and we saw a bit of that here and so forth. So the movement really needs to get the help of other, movements for it to succeed. But I think it's very important to start with what the Constitution gives us, and we make sure we get that. Okay, because that's a supreme law that is saying, you must have it. It's just like the issue of 2/3 gender rule, the way people have still been fighting, saying this is the minimum. Why can't you give us this? Yeah. So that's a strategy that I suggested to them.
He observed the need for better strategies of disseminating information without leaving behind the parents and caregivers of children with disabilities.
Aspect they mentioned here, which is very important, the parents, the families of children or individuals with disability being involved. That's part of that movement. You can't leave them out. They are the ones who are taking care of kids with a disability, right? Yeah.
Let's take a look at the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities.
Article 25 of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities states that state parties shall, Part B, provide those health services needed by persons with disabilities, specifically because of their disabilities, including early identification and intervention as appropriate, and services designed to minimize and prevent further disabilities, including among children and older persons.
And here is the tip for the day.
For persons with disability to achieve to be included in the society, it doesn't take persons with disabilities alone. We cannot tell our pain points, we cannot tell our struggles and tell it to ourselves. And the meaning of conversation is bringing on board different people for a cause. And what I'm calling upon, and what this book was all about, is it's calling upon the unity between the scholars as they write anything about disability. Does it have the consumer, who is the society out there, who is supposed to ensure persons with disabilities are enjoying their rights? Because as much as we keep writing and putting them into the shelves, as much as we come up with new laws and we do not implement the laws, persons with disabilities will continue being excluded in a community that is all over talking about disability.
We've come to the end of the show for today. However, enjoy this science song. Until next time, I've been your host, Theory. Goodbye.
kila wakati. Neno lake Bwana ni ngome yetu, neno lake Bwana ni ngome yetu, linatuongoza kila uchao, linatuongoza kila uchao, linatupa nguvu kila wakati, linatupa nguvu kila wakati. Neno ni ngome, latushikilia tusianguke, ngome imara kwetu sote. Hata yawe mazito, mawimbi hayawezi tuangusha, ngome imara kwetu sote. Neno lake Bwana ni taa yetu, linatuongoza gizani vema, linatuongoza gizani vema. Hatuna mashaka tukiwa nalo, hatuna mashaka tukiwa nalo. Neno lake Bwana ni taa yetu, neno lake Bwana ni taa yetu, linatuongoza gizani vema, linatuongoza gizani vema. Hatuna mashaka tukiwa tukiwa nalo. Neno ni ngome, latushikilia tusianguke, ngome imara kwetu sote. Hata yawe mazito, mawimbi hayawezi tuangusha, ngome imara kwetu sote. Ukiwa na neno hili moyoni, wasiwasi wako wote ondoa, wasiwasi wako wote ondoa. Kila jambo kwako litawa rahisi, kila jambo kwako litawa rahisi. Ukiwa na neno hili moyoni, ukiwa na neno hili moyoni, wasiwasi wako wote ondoa, wasiwasi wako wote ondoa. Kila jambo kwako litawa rahisi, kila jambo kwako litawa rahisi. Neno ni ngome, latushikilia tusianguke, ngome imara kwetu sote. Hata yawe mazito, mawimbi hayawezi tuangusha, ngome imara kwetu sote. Neno ni ngome, latushikilia tusianguke, ngome imara kwetu sote. Hata yawe mazito, mawimbi hayawezi tuangusha, ngome imara kwetu sote. Neno ni ngome, latushikilia tusianguke, ngome imara kwetu sote. Hata yawe mazito, mawimbi hayawezi tuangusha, ngome imara kwetu sote. We are here and we are strong. Let's be counted as we move on. Make a difference, change lives as we tell our different stories. We are capable, beautiful.
beautiful, we are born to do great things. We're unstoppable, incredible, 'cause we're differently abled, differently.